morning, green afternoon, green evening. Pleasure to have all of you with us for yet another powerful evening. If I correctly recall, today we are completing 37 webinars with Shri Anil MANOCHA ji from Singapore. And
40,
he
sir, 40.
40. Okay,
Yes,
40,
great.
40. Wow, that's a great celebration. 40 webinars. Great. Let me just correct myself. It's a 40 webinars with him. So, ladies and gentlemen, today is the 1036th webinar of our chamber during this pandemic. Like doctors, nurses, paramedical people, they took their responsibility. Great warriors, great soldiers in civil uniform, civil clothes. Similar way, our teachers, our educator, our counselor, our principal, our headmaster, our vice chancellors, everybody who's ever is in an education ecosystem, we thought our chamber should take responsibility for making education relevant. And when we talk about making education relevant, we took over there why music is not an integral part of education, why our traditional heritage, dances, games, and rural games, interior games, whatever we have got, organic farming, rural living, rural life, whatever we can think of, why that is not a part of. Okay, there's a huge budget and a separate ministry and separate department and everything. You talk about disaster management. Why don't we make it integral part of our education ecosystem? When you are in school, you get basics. When you move up, similar way, every drop of water matters for all of us. Imagine and just think about the people who have to move miles and miles. They got to travel just to carry one pitcher, just to carry one matka, just to carry one bucket. Can you imagine how much is the need of water management in our country? It is always what I've learned, because I'm not an expert of this subject. I deal more with the direct education strategy, education relevance, policy framework, everything. And of course, my forte is tourism, hospitality, and aviation. And I want to forewarn all hotels, let's not waste water. Let's save every drop of water. It's very, very important. So, when we are talking about that, today we have got a very distinguished guest, Shri Probir Banerjee. He is the president of the Pondican, that's called Pondi Citizen Action Network. He is our honorable guest of the evening. And today is Saturday, 10th of July, 2021. On behalf of Shri Anil MANOCHA ji, we extend him a very warm welcome on behalf of our chamber. And today we are going to have wonderful deliberations and valuable inputs from his side, collaboration for an integrated water resource management. So, ladies and gentlemen, our chamber dedicated, and it's a link between India and Indian diaspora world over. We have got about 31 million Indians living abroad in different countries, our brothers and sisters. We are proud of them. They are doing wonderful. And of course, the whole world, when we talk about, it's a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That means the whole world is one family. All of us, we are together. Why don't we take care of things in a nice way? Over here, all the previous reminiscence of the wonderful deliberations, discussions, where Anil MANOCHA ji had been getting wonderful speakers. Let us save every drop of water. That is the mission, and that is what the ambition. Why don't we have water conservation, water saving, water management strategies in our school education, in our higher education, in our technical education? We have taken different themes. We are taking tourism, we are taking waste to water resources, and we are talking about water management. We are talking about, immediately after this program, you'll be having this evening Ayurveda for the global wellness. Thereafter, we will take you to Northeast, 8 beautiful states, India ASEAN series. On the same channel, GS Motivator, you can join. And then tomorrow, Sunday, it's full of deliberations. You will have early in the morning Vidya Se Adhyatam Vidya Ki Aur. That's coming from 9:30 to 11, all the way from Woodbury University, Burbank, California, Professor Satendra Dhiman. And tomorrow there's a very special session, particularly for Punjabis, because it's a cinematic tourism, and with Sri Manmohan Singh ji, earlier cinematographer, now producer, director, writer, Tomorrow we are going to have 4 generations together of singing from one family, 4 generations together under the media entertainment series. Thereafter, we will be moving to MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprise, where we encourage children. Why don't you go for startup? Why don't you have your self-employment? Why don't you become entrepreneur? And then tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock, we will take you to Canada with our non-resident Indians. And there we will talk about tourism and how there is going to be a repackaging of tourism because it's once again NRIs for education. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 7 p.m. This is, we have got at 8 p.m. That is the power of influence. He looks like Dev Anand of Bollywood. He is a distinguished actor, model, and youth icon all the way from the Northeast who will be joining us this evening under India ASEAN series. And thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to share with all of you the B2B is no more business to business. It's back to basics of life. This corona has put everything into a new order. There's a great learning, and every crisis bring new opportunities and new packaging also. If we do not take care of environment is going to throw us and going to keep us right indoors intact where you can't move out, mask your everything and then move out. So basic food, basic health and happiness, and of course your digital education, sustainable development. Whatever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Why can't we all come together? Let's make everything relevant in our day-to-day life and our living. So we are inviting you to be a part of our YouTube channel, GS Motivator, where you will be in a position to meet everybody from world over. And let me roll in the carpet for both the dignitaries this evening, Shri Prabir Banerjee and Shri Anil MANOCHA ji. Join me in extending a very warm welcome to both of them. It's a pleasure to have them and they join us. And I request our chairperson for water management because he says there is no water shortage. It's only we do not manage our water properly. So thereby my human appeal and brothers and sisters across and my children and grandchildren at the age of 72, I can tell you only one request. Let's save every drop of water. Let's live actually like a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Not that you come at one place and you park your army over there, then you shift somewhere else, and then you bring the whole world into a new order. Why not? We should live in a nice way, decent way, dignified way, collaborative way, creative way, brotherly way, and sisterly way also. So let's move on, and I hand you over to Anil MANOCHA ji.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to 40th webinar today. We have come long way, and today we are going to talk on water issues in our 40th webinar. If you roll back and see what we have traveled so far, we have raised various issues, and if we try to put it under one umbrella, they are issues related to water resource management and all those things. And we covered various topics starting from water pollution to water conservation to water sources and to water management. We touched the subjects of groundwater contamination, touched the subjects of pollution, touched the subject of wastewater from refinery. And when we talk about water conservation, we went back to Vedas and we learned from Vedas how in ancestral time there was no word called waste in the nature. Nothing is waste in the nature, and we learned from there how we can probably create wealth of water and how we can conserve water. We learned about various aspects of water. We learned about circular economy. We learned how water can be saved. We talked about natural waterways. And then when we moved to water sources, we talked about sea water, we talked about river water, we talked about underground water, and we talked about economics of ecology and natural way of converting the water. We also went to the ancient times, how Decani quantas were popular in India and how the tunnels were made for water and how the river economy boomed. And then we also touched the global water issues. An important learning which we got from global water issues was a very important learning from Singapore water story was Singapore is a classic example of integrated water management. So they conserve every drop of water, they collect every drop of wastewater, they collect everything which falls onto the ground, and they ensure that water is efficiently treated. And they, a country which does not have their own source of water, is today giving a technological leadership in water field, and closely joining by another country which is Israel, and Israel is a desert country. So if you take the two classic examples, a coastal country like Singapore and a desert country like Israel, they are bringing a gamut of technologies to the world, and probably few of them are benefiting India as well. So Singapore water story, if you can relate, it was a story of water management. The water shortage story of Cape Town was a story how the government related water with people. It was connecting the people with water, connecting the social cord, how we can address water issues by connecting socially with water. And when we talked about the ASEAN water story, we learned how a upstream country which is having abundant source can create issues with the downstream countries, and what type of problem today we are facing in Mekong River Delta because of whatever happens in upstream. We can build dams, we can do whatever, but it affects the soil fertility, it affects the water quality, and probably the few countries downstream like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam are not able to preserve erosion. And when we talk about water education, we told our audiences that water is such a field which is recession free, and the type of investments which is coming globally are phenomenal. Even today, in the time of COVID, 2.2 billion people do not have even access to safe drinking water. Forget about safe drinking water, they do not have access even to wash hands. So this creates a tremendous opportunity of managing water properly. We touched various aspects in water education, potential in India, potential worldwide. And then we talked about the water supply issues. We talked about community water solutions, domestic water solutions, urban, rural, and home water solutions. And to help this, we had a lot of people like Probir who joined us in the past from various parts of the world. People connected with our platform from US, they connected with some UK, Malaysia, Singapore, and not to forget, a lot of people from India volunteered to give their mind to all of us. With this background, we have learned and we have told our people about how we can reduce the plastic use single bottles, how do we need to select the home water purifier, what type of techniques can be used for home water conservation, what's the relation between food, water, energy, how we can handle the contaminated water bodies, local water issues, urban water, and all those things. So we talked about all these subjects, but today, through Prabir, who is our guest of today, we will try to see how we can work in a collaborative manner to integrate all the water resources, which could be probably water bodies, which could be probably groundwater, which could be irrigation, which could be farmhouses, rural water, urban water, and all those things. With Probir, is a very experienced guy. He is a president of a NGO called Pondican, and he works in the field of enhancing the life of people. He is actively working in restoring the Pondi coastline. He's developing a lot of concepts for regeneration of water bodies, how we can handle the water issues through NGO route, through other routes. And he also is a recipient of various awards. Global Trotter, traveled more than 50 years. With this, probably I will request Bobby to tell something more about himself, and I would like to hand over the floor to him. Over to you, Bobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Anilji. So, yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, please. Perfect.
Okay. So thank you, Gulshan ji, for inviting me. And this is a fantastic initiative, taking up water, because this is so crucial. But in spite of all of us knowing about it, we do very little about it. So let me start with my presentation. Collaboration for integrated water resource management. I'm part of Pondican, and also AGG is Alliance for Good Governance, is a collective of NGOs. And All for Water for All is a larger collective in the whole bioregion, about which I'll be talking about. The keywords here are collaboration and integration. So these are two things which will keep coming up again and again. Let me start with a quotation from Sri Aurobindo. All problems of existence are essentially problems of harmony. And it is this disconnect between people and the environment, which is actually what we are seeing as a symptom. But the root cause is the harmony which we have lost. Harmony with oneself, harmony with people around us, and harmony with the environment. So when we talk about environment, especially water, we need to look at a macro perspective, because water flows and you can't just isolate to one pond or a tank. You need to see the flow of water, because it's not only flow of water, it's also flow of energy. So in 2008, we came out with this concept of a bioregional planning. It's basically about taking up a larger landscape, not about the political boundaries, because Pondicherry is actually a small union territory with 11 pockets. And in between, we have the districts of Viluppuram and Kadlur. So it's a very peculiar kind of situation. How do you manage development in a place which is so interspersed? So we take a larger landscape, and after a lot of deliberation, we decided that we take up the watershed area, because that should be the defining boundaries. And the whole thing about bioregional planning is it's a very meaningful framework, because it takes into account the natural infrastructure, water, biodiversity, and so on. It is done through a consultation process, so it involves the people, the communities in that area. It talks about a rural-urban continuum, because very often the cities develop at the cost of the rural areas, and also to design long-term sustainable communities. And for this, you need to have collaboration, whether it's government, experts, industries, educational institutions. We need every single body on board, including all the individuals. So talking about Pondicherry, Viluppuram, Auroville, Kadlur bioregion, this is the circle that we are talking about. It's a 40 kilometers radius from Pondicherry. And as you can see, you have a huge number of water bodies. It's the 2,500 square kilometers area, out of which only 400 square kilometers are Pondicherry. The remaining is part of Tamil Nadu. Now, along the coast, you have the beaches, the sand dunes, estuaries, and mangroves. We have to understand the interconnectedness of this whole thing. And just behind it are the coastal wetlands, the tanks, the ponds, which hold the water which flows down. And then these water bodies help support and protect these wetlands, regulate soil, and crucial for biodiversity and carbon sequestration. And this whole region is actually very closely interconnected through the natural resources, because we share the same water body and biodiversity and so on, climate, culture, the historical linkages, tourism, trade, and we have a common coast. So it is only common sense that we take this whole bioregion and plan for a bioregion instead of working on administrative boundaries. So this is the series of events which happened in 2000, from 2008. We initiated this concept of bioregional planning. But as you know, the town and country planning has rural development and urban development. So they don't have a bioregional concept. So it was very hard to put this on board. But after a couple of workshops, we found out that way back in 1986, the central government had written to the governments of Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu that Pondicherry and Auroville are fast-growing cities, and we should take up regional planning. And there was a reminder sent in 2004. After that, we had a series of things which happened, meetings in Pondicherry, in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, in Delhi. We met all the who's who could help us in this initiative. And I'll talk to you about a few points which I have highlighted in yellow, and I'll be talking to you more about it. The first is we needed to find out whether this concept of bioregional planning will be accepted. Can we have a common vision? Because if each department or each unit is pulling in different directions, we cannot move forward. So we did a 1.5-year study. It was based on, it was funded by a French agency called ADEM. And we did a whole study for 1.5 years, talking to farmers, to fishermen, to government officials, having individual meetings, collect stakeholder meetings. The 4 key sectors we took was land use, transportation, water, and energy. But of course, there are other aspects as well. For example, food, livelihoods, waste management, and so on. But we took these key issues. And of course, we collected a huge amount of data. We did GIS mapping, field visits, and a lot of surveys and workshops. And we came out with this report. I can give a copy if anybody is interested. We had the last meeting in 2018. It was a consultation meeting where each sub-region of this bioregion, actually, just if you see this, there is a Marakanam. This is a wetland area. Then we have the Oroville. Then we have the Ulsteri Lake. Then we have the Bahur Lake, and then we have the Perumal Eri. Now you see the migratory birds also take this trajectory. So this is something that we need to look into, that there is a connectivity in that. So we had presentations from each of these sub-regions about the assets that they have, the challenges they have. These presentations were there, and there was a huge discussion, group discussions on general topics, how to build an institutional framework, how to coordinate action, and so on, and also thematic topics like water, transportation, and coast. And as Stanley Yud said, a good plan is like a roadmap. It shows the final destination and usually the best way to get there. So we need to have a whole planning process in place. And in that meeting, we had the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, the Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary, the MLAs from the various parts, and also the Principal Secretary from Tamil Nadu. And they all heard about what was the deliberations, and they all came out with the acceptance that we need to move forward in the approach of taking bioregional planning as the focus. So we have compiled some of the comments. Now, coming from the bioregion, the macro level to a meso level, which is a Pondicherry area. Now, as we all know, fresh water is absolutely essential, and it is also a right under the Constitution. But any pond you visit, I guess anywhere in India, you'll see all kinds of problems. You'll see encroachments, you'll see pollution, over-extraction, bore wells being dug, non-maintenance. Nobody cares, because the whole thing is that earlier the communities used to manage, now it is the government departments which are managing, and therefore people have just given up and there is no control, nobody is monitoring, and so on. And as Hubert Reeves said, man is the most insane of species. He worships an invisible God and destroys a visible nature, unaware that this nature he destroys is the God he's worshipping. So if you see these pictures, it will tell you that this is exactly what is happening in all parts of India. Now, as far as Pondicherry is concerned, way back in 1,200 years ago, the Cholas had not only built an ingenious engineering system of collecting water from the river, from the rainwater, and through the channels, it connected the tanks and ponds and then flowed down into the sea. But they also had a system in place. It's called the Kudimaramat system, where the communities were involved in planning, in execution of works. So everything was done by the community. And the user-first amounts, which is the fish contracts and the contracts from the palm trees and other trees which are around the tank, went into the maintenance of the tank. The silt was taken by the farmers to enrich their soil. But when the French government took over, they actually institutionalized the system. The larger tanks were taken by PWD, and it was called the Syndicate Agricole. The Syndicate Agricole, and the small ponds were taken up, called as the Caisse Commune. But unfortunately, when the government of Pondicherry took over, the tanks were given away to the Department of Public Works Department, and the ponds were given to the municipalities or the local administration. And of course, they had no experience, and the whole thing was the works were given on contract. Huge amounts would be paid, but no work was done, and the whole thing went into shambles. And always fund constraint is a major issue. The whole thing was actually that the collaboration, the working with the community and experts were gone. Then in 1999, the European Union funded a project called ERPP, the Tank Rehabilitation Project of Pondicherry. And the experts, when they came, they said the systems that you had was absolutely impeccable. So we will give the funds provided you revive the ancient systems. And that's how the funds came. It went from 1999 to 2004, and all the ponds, the water bodies were rejuvenated, and it was back to square one where it was healthy. But subsequently, from 2004 to 2008, the communities took it up along with the government, and it was fine. Again, in 2009, again, the system went back to contracting, and the whole thing is in shambles. Then from 2018, thanks to the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry then, Dr. Kiran Bedi, we started a whole lot of initiatives. And first thing is, we have to understand the tanks and ponds. The first picture you see is all the Pondicherry with all the water bodies. We have 2 municipalities and 5 commune panchayats, which was, and these are the ponds distribution in this whole of Pondicherry. So with Dr. Kiran Bedi is to come on during the weekends to visit these ponds and tanks. And of course, being a governor, she had the power to instruct the authorities to take action. And of course, since the government didn't have funds, under the CSR funds, about 86 kilometers of channels were cleaned up. And these channels are actually the lifeline which bring water to the tanks and ponds, because each tank is associated to a whole set of ponds. And she even walked with us this entire 6.7 kilometers of Siteri channel to see what happens, how the farmers are benefited. This place is Bahur, which is the rice bowl of Pondicherry, and it is all agricultural fields. But there, because of the over extraction and so on, even at 650 feet deep, the water is saline. So she walked, and if you see this picture, you have these aqueducts. So the water on the other side, when it gets filled up, it doesn't flood. The water will flow and come to this side. But you see what a condition it is in. And they had another system called the siphon. So the water would come and it will go below the canal and continue to flow without affecting. Because if it rained and this canal was full, then the water would not be able to flow in, and it would create a backlog and flood the upper regions. So they had the siphon, which was an amazing system of taking water below the canals and ponds. And we walked this entire 6.7 kilometers with the farmers. After 15 years, this channel was clean, and they came and thanked that this was done, because earlier the water used by the farmers were surface water. But because of the damage done to the canals, they had to resort to deep bores. Now, again, they started taking the water from the surface and for the irrigation. Then we come to micro level. So since government didn't have funds, we said, okay, we said that since you can't do it, let us do it. And with the support of the collector, the local MLA, we started taking ponds, and contribution from the communities, we started rejuvenating the ponds. If you see the first picture, is called VANNAN KULAM. It's a pond. It used to be a pond, but it turned into a garbage dumping site for the last 20, 30 years, as far as people can remember. So we took up the challenge, we cleaned it up, and you see the last picture. This is how it has become. It is a 50 lakh liter capacity, and it has a lot of planted trees and all that. And now the government of Puducherry has taken it up under the Smart City project. And one thing we have to remember is these ponds are okay. They're necessary for storing water, but it is also important for biodiversity. And very importantly, the recreational spaces, because Pondicherry is, completely starved of recreational space. And these spaces, when people go for walks around this, it creates the health and well-being which is much needed in the present times. Next, we moved on to Abhishekapakkam. This is the area Kulam, which has not been desilted for 50 years. So we took up the work. Commissioner and collector, they all supported, because, they didn't have to pay anything. We took it as a community effort, and we have restored. You can see the height of weeds, the amount of desilting we had to do. And eventually now it's a 25 million liter. It's a pond, but it's almost as big as a pond. So these are some simple initiatives that we have taken. Next, we move to a place. This is the EB station, a substation in Pondicherry. Now, what the government does is they hand over these ponds to departments to build, electricity department and various other departments. And when they do that, they delist the ponds. Now, these departments can only run as a department, but they don't have funds to maintain the ponds. So this pond that you see was completely covered up. All the junk vehicles and everything was lying there. And so we rejuvenated that pond. And while we inaugurated this green t-shirt gentleman, he's a retired police officer, he was telling us that when we were kids, we used to come and swim here. And he was very happy to see that after 30, 40 years, there were children swimming in the pond again. So this is a very welcome sight, and you can, there's a happy feeling about this rejuvenation. In the same compound, there was another big pond, and one of the Jays took us there and said that this used to be a pond. So you can see what condition it was in. And again, we took out tons and tons of steel and garbage from this place. So now it has been rejuvenated, and all the surrounding houses, it has become a beautiful recreational spot. So with the community effort, we have done a lot of tree planting programs, and now you can see a lot of wildlife coming back. This is also again in the EB station. Next, we went to a place called VANNAN, which was a pond again, but it was filled up to build an overhead tank. Can you imagine to cover up a pond and you want to build an overhead tank? Fortunately, we succeeded in stopping the overhead tank. And after a lot of struggle, we managed to rejuvenate this pond. And what we did is there are 9 neighborhood associations around it. And this is crucial. We created another association consisting of all these 9 associations, neighborhood associations. And now they have taken over the pond. The municipality has handed it over to them. Now they are, whatever has to be done, making a children's park and planting trees, are taken up by them. They celebrate their birthdays, etc. in this place. So it has become a beautiful recreational spot for them. And this is the another low-lying area which belonged to a school. And this is actually not a pond. So when the education secretary told us that, can you help us? This is a low-lying area. It's filled with garbage. It is used for drinking and all the all kinds of negative things. Can you help us? We went and studied and found out that the 3 neighboring areas had a sewage system in place, but the water was all flowing into this area. So we suggested that if we make it into a large pond, it could be a community rainwater harvesting structure. So not only the place will, because during the monsoon, the whole place gets flooded. So if we deepen it and make it into a nice place, it could become a rainwater harvesting structure. And the walk around this pond is 1 kilometer. So basically, we have actually created a pond from a low-lying area. And now it has become a beautiful space with 2 playgrounds at the 2 ends for the children to play. Now, that is one aspect. And as I told you that when we work the integration, we have to work at various levels. We have to talk about information systems. We have to gather information, share information. We have to talk about policy changes. We have to talk about workshops, stakeholder workshops. We have to talk about events, organizing events to get people together. We have to also talk about, actually ground level action. So what I showed you was ground level action where communities take up a responsibility for this thing, for the rejuvenation of these water bodies. So fortunately for us, Sri Anvarasu was the development commissioner, and we have a water policy 2016 in Puducherry. It has all the right elements in place, but not being implemented. So we just asked that, can we implement the water policy? So we organized a workshop where all the government departments, forest, science, technology, environment, fisheries, everybody came, and we discussed about what is the step forward. All these things are mentioned, information system, water resource planning are all mentioned, but how do we go about this whole thing? So we had this discussion and plans have been charted out. Subsequently, we had the second workshop, which is on information systems, because information is absolutely key. Unless we know where the pond lies, what is the extent, how do we work on it? And the challenges are that information is scattered. Each department is holding information and not sharing with other departments, forget about sharing with the people. And information is not updated, and public has no access to this information. So we had a discussion where each person came out with what do they want to see in the information system. And we came out with a comprehensive list of what kind of information is required. some are static, some are dynamic, and how we share this information and get people involved in their local areas to rejuvenate the ponds. And here you see the beautiful system, the irrigation channels. There are two main rivers and other smaller rivers which feed the tanks and ponds until it flows out into the sea. So the government also agreed to pick up these 5 channels, rejuvenate these 5 channels. So we charted out, we made estimates, and this year the work is supposed to be taken up. And once this is done, the whole surface water surface water will be active, and we can actually use the surface water instead of using our fixed deposit, which is the water aquifer. This year we had 2 fantastic initiatives, and this is very much aligned with what Gulshan ji said about water and education. So we had a water festival. It started on 2nd February, which is World Wetlands Day, and ended on 22nd March, World Water Day. It was a 50 days event. And this was basically last monsoons, November, December, we have our monsoons. All the water bodies were full. So we said we should celebrate this. So that was one component. And the other component was, can we use this festival to get people involved, local communities involved, and essentially schools involved in this whole initiative. So the inauguration was held in the school where we launched the Neer Kudam. Neer Kudam, I'll talk to you about the Neer Kudam and the OSOP program. We involved the local MLA and all the government officials, and we launched this initiative of this festival, which was the water festival. So this one school, one pond is a concept we developed with the Secretary of Education. He also happened to be the development commissioner. The idea is that we have about 400 schools and about 450 ponds. Why not have one school adopt one pond? And each school has a lab, which is the physics lab and chemistry lab. Why don't we make the pond as an ecological lab? So there's a whole learning process which will happen, because you cannot teach environment in the sitting in the classrooms. So through OSOP, the 2 major aspects are get the students connected to environment through taking up initiatives. And the second is, how can we integrate all the subjects? Because all the subjects work in silos. Can we have the pond as an integrating factor? So what is the history of the pond? There's a pond nearby, but we don't know the history. We don't know the name. There are folk tales. The history, the geography is about learning the water cycles, learning to do GIS mapping of ponds and so on, about biology, about zoology, about maths, about culture. Everything you can develop around the pond system. And as part of the curriculum, can we get all this integrated in the existing curriculum so that the students can take it up? And this will not only make them, because they need to develop social skills, because they have to work with the community. The idea was the schools work with the local community towards protection of this pond, protection and rejuvenation. So, and we also tied up with all the government departments, fisheries, forests. So the fisheries department agreed that once you rejuvenate, we will advise you what fish to put, and we will also give you the fishlings. The forest department said, we can give you the plants, so whatever the plants are required. So the government departments all came on board to support this OSOP, One School, One Pond project. And so it will not only foster in students the knowledge and how to address the community needs, but it will get them really connected to the environment. The Neer Kudam was another interesting thing that we took up. Neer Kudam is basically a water jug. So we collected water from the Usteri Lake, which is the largest water body, and it's a bird sanctuary. And this Neer Kudam, we in fact started with one. It was traveling from one school to the other. So each school would, headmaster or the principal would take the Neer Kudam along with the students, and each school has appointed eco coordinator. So that person would connect the ponds to link the ponds to the school education system. So that they would go and hand it over officially to the next school, and the next school will receive the Neer Kudam with there was almost like a competition who can make it more beautiful and eventful. So they had these dances and music and all kinds of events to receive the Neer Kudam in a very ceremonious way. And each school would then pour a little bit of water into the pond that they have adopted and take a little bit of water from the pond and put it in the Neer Kudam, essentially to show the interconnectedness. And we covered about 94 schools. Started with one Neer Kudam, but then so many schools started asking for it that we had to introduce a second Neer Kudam and a third Neer Kudam. So we divided into the south zone, west zone, and north zone, because in the east we have the sea. And we covered about 94 schools during this Neer Kudam Yatra. And the Neer Kudams had a passport. We came out with a passport. So every school wrote about the, where about, writing about the Neer Kudam had come, their experience, and with a stamp of the school. And during the inauguration, one of us would go and speak about water and about we would have a local community person talking about the local pond, and we would have the principal speaking, and sometimes even the students speaking. And we were actually amazed that actually the students are very, very much aware of water and what needs to be done. What we did was, during this water festival, we had 5 competitions. A drawing competition. So each school participated. This was across all the schools, the 400 odd schools in Pondicherry. So the students participated, and then the prizes were given at a state level. So there was a drawing competition. There was an essay competition where the students wrote about water. There was a banner competition where the students put their thoughts and feelings, drawings and logos and mottos and slogans and so on. We had a Neer Kudam. So each school prepared a Neer Kudam, beautifully painted, and there was a competition for that. And we also had a 3-minute video prepared by each school to talk about their pond. And the theme for all these events was My School, My Pond. And basically to create ownership about, what the students can do. And once they take pride and once they take ownership, we don't, I think they can manage it pretty well. And with the support of the local community, the funding would be coming from the community. We don't have to keep waiting for the government, because since we always have this fund constraint, we could keep waiting forever and have a water crisis. So by giving the ownership to the schools and the community, we can overcome all these problems and take local ownership of the water ponds. And the prizes are yet to be awarded. Schools have not yet reopened, but the prizes, first, second prize and consolation prizes will be awarded once the schools reopen. So at present, what we are doing is trying to come out with a curriculum, history, geography, because how to integrate it with the existing curriculum. Otherwise, earlier we had an initiative, it was called Seeds of Change, basically about environmental education. It ran for 5 years. Then one government came and they said it is not necessary. So we had to scrap the whole project because it was a standalone, it was apart from the existing curriculum. So now we are working on the curriculum so that once it is integrated, say in class 4, in the curriculum, we talk about water, but it's just a theoretical thing. Can we connect it to the pond? So by integrating all these subjects, then it is there to stay and it has to become a policy. So at present, we are working with the government on making it into a policy in terms of education through local administration with the communities. So this is what we are working on at the moment. So thank you very much. To end with a quotation, the future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. So these are some of the humble initiatives that we have taken. And now that I know Anilji, I'm going to disturb you and trouble you and see how you can help us in our initiatives. And Gulshanji, I'll come to you again because now the time for awareness is long over. It is time for action and results-based action because we keep talking about awareness. Yes, it is important, but unless we build collaboration and work on all these different aspects, policies, events, and ground level action, We will keep talking about it for the next 10 years, but we will see no change in the ground level. So I look forward to your support, Anilji and Gulshanji, and let's see what we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Wonderful, wonderful. Such a valuable inputs. I request Anil MANOCHA ji to kindly take over, and then finally, I would propose word of thanks for both of you.
Thanks, Praveen, for giving such a insightful presentation. Again, we are coming back to few points which we talk on integrated water resource management. And through your deliberation, I would like to label it the way we have been labeling in the past, that water could be a global problem, but the issues are always local. Solution is always local. And you have very clearly connected the social aspect of water with technical aspect of water with a practical approach. How do we handle water? Though we keep on arguing and telling in India that we have got so many water owners, there are more than 16 to 17 government bodies responsible for water issues, and then we get lost in that wicked issue, to whom to approach and what to get solution for. But the simple approach of one school, one pond, connecting and creating awareness, looking at the funds, connecting, talking about tanks, talking about ponds, giving ownership to municipalities, giving ownership to governments. So these are a practical, doable things. And whenever we connect the social issues with political issues, which you very well demonstrated through your Near KULAM project, that you connected the social with political linkages and with technical, of course, a background, you will be working on technical solutions. So you came out with a very right approach, how we can regenerate the water bodies. And the approach of collaborating and integrating, connecting with people, connecting with technologists is very well appreciable. Though we use a lot of technical jargons when we talk about water issues, but the way in a simple manner you have demonstrated in your place where you're working is really commendable. So I will not get into too much of technical. I will definitely say
I think we lost his signal.
water could be a wicked problem, but solutions are always local.
Can you hear Prabirji?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. I can't hear him.
Yeah, his I think signal is weak.
I think I can't hear him. Maybe the different destinations have got different challenges on different dates and different timings.
Yes.
And maybe he has got some connectivity issue at this
Let
point
me stop
of
my
time.
video and
Oh, he's
then
come
see
back.
whether we...
Yes.
Back.
Can you hear me, sir? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
now we can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. So I will always say, we will be always willing to work together. Though I am a water treatment solution provider, I work in the field. Water is my profession, and I provide solutions to communities, industries, and all those things. But through this webinar series, through ICSI, I've learned a lot on other aspects of water. I learned a lot on social aspects, technical aspects, and we have a pool of about 40 to 50 people who have connected with us. So anything which we can do, we'll be happy to do that. With this, probably I'll give it floor to Gulshan ji to give vote of thanks. And
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gulshanji, the onus is on you now to connect all
Yes.
the people working on water.
Yes, we will work, sir. We will work. In fact, we have made a WhatsApp group where about 100 people are already connected. We will bring you also today in that. And it's across the globe. All of us, we are working together. Now, I just wish to, first of all, convey my deep gratitudes and thanks to Prabir Banerjee. It was a wonderful, wonderful insight. I felt very happy because I keep crying all the time why education is not integral part of education at school level, college level, ITI, polytechnic, university. Why are we teaching theories? Why are we teaching all that, which is not relevant to my day-to-day life? Let's pick up those things when I get up in the morning till I go to sleep. What I need, what I do, what I perform, everything in education should be relevant to my day-to-day life. That is something very important. We keep talking to each other. So today, when you touched something very interesting, we talk about physics lab, chemistry lab, bio lab, computer lab. You told why the ponds can't be an ecological lab. Wow. I'm going to use this word. I'm going to use this word. Ponds can be ecological lab. And then you told, let's get the students connected with environment and also integrate all the subjects, whatever is connected through that, leading to policy. Wow, that's great. Something very interesting. And Anil Manocha ji, over the years, he has handled politicians also, bureaucrats also, technocrats also, others also, people like me also retired, nearly expired, and people those have been moving in a journey with the education. All this government. So he beautifully packaged where he told that you took a journey this evening, social to technical, technical to political, and political to practical implementation. That is the beautiful part. And Neer Kudam, that is something which I have also picked up today. Neer is water, all of us we know. But today, the picture, the matka, which you have shown, decorated one, and that something is Neer Kudam, we will remember. And something interesting which you gave me 55 days program, 2nd of February to 22nd March, World Wetland Day to the World Water Day. And now there is a World Youth Day also coming on 12th of August, when last year, along with Anil Manocha ji, we connected world over all the countries together. We are already working on that. We will invite you on that day as well also. And we would like, if you can package that day in 5 to 7 or 10 minutes, something for the global youth. We can work out something interesting onto that. And that should be a global appeal and something going on with that perspective. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure to have both of you. Namaskaran and Vanakkam from Tamil Nadu. Namaskaran from Kerala.